I never thought I would become that woman, the kind of woman who betrays her own family. But here I am, admitting the ugliest truth about myself. For years, my marriage had been empty. My husband stopped looking at me, stopped caring if I was happy or sad. I felt invisible in my own home. And then my daughter got married. Her husband was everything mine wasn't. Attentive, kind, always ready to listen. At first, I thought of him like a son. But the more time we spent together, the more I realized something dangerous was happening. The way he looked at me lingered too long, and the way I responded terrified me. I should have stopped it then. I should have drawn the line. But instead, I crossed it.
It started so innocently. A touch on the arm, a shared smile, late-night conversations in the kitchen when everyone else was asleep. I told myself it was harmless, that I was just starved for attention. But one night, after a family dinner, I walked into the living room and found him alone. We talked for hours, and when I stood up to leave, he didn't let go of my hand. My heart was pounding like I was a teenager again. That night, he kissed me, and instead of pulling away, I kissed him back. The guilt hit me instantly, but so did something else. Desire. I hadn't felt wanted in years, and now I was drowning in it. We swore it would never happen again, but of course it did.
After that first night, everything changed. Every glance across the dinner table felt like a secret. Every accidental brush of our hands sent electricity through me. We became reckless. He would help me in the kitchen while my daughter was in another room. Sometimes his hand would slide down my back, and I'd pretend not to notice. The first time we actually slept together, it was in my own bedroom while my husband was away on a business trip. I told myself it was just once, a mistake, something I could bury. But once turned into twice, twice turned into a habit. And soon, I wasn't just lying to my husband, I was lying to my daughter, too. Every time I looked at my daughter, guilt burned inside me. She trusted me completely, always sharing little stories about her husband, about how much she loved him. And I would just sit there, nodding, pretending I wasn't betraying her in the worst possible way. One evening, I walked into the living room and saw them laughing together on the couch. The way she looked at him, so full of love, it twisted something inside me. I should have stopped. I should have ended everything right then. But instead, I felt jealous of my own daughter. The lies grew heavier, and so did the risk. If she ever found out, I knew it would destroy not only her marriage, but our entire family. Yet, despite the fear, I couldn't stay away from him. The danger of being caught made everything more intense. We started taking risks we never should have taken. Sometimes when my daughter left for work, he would sneak into my room. Other times, I would invent excuses to come over when I knew she wouldn't be home. But one afternoon, as we kissed in the kitchen, we suddenly heard the sound of the front door opening. My heart nearly stopped. It was her voice. She was home earlier than expected. I pushed him away, my hand shaking, and rushed to the other side of the room, pretending I was just helping with some groceries. He barely had time to fix his shirt before she walked in. She looked at us suspiciously, her eyes narrowing for just a moment. Had she noticed something? That night, I couldn't sleep. Her eyes, when she looked at us, it was as if she knew something. At dinner the next day, she suddenly asked me, almost casually, "Mom, you've been spending a lot of time here lately. Why?" I forced a laugh, pretending it was just because I wanted to help her with the house and support her. She smiled, but It wasn't the warm smile I was used to. It was sharp, almost testing me. After she left the table, I caught her husband's eye. He looked pale, his jaw tight, as if he too felt the tension closing in. The walls around our secret were getting thinner. A few days later, my daughter came home earlier than usual. She walked into the living room, sniffed the air, and frowned. "Mom, why does the couch smell like your perfume?" she asked, tilting her head. My heart skipped a beat. I tried to laugh it off, saying I'd just been sitting there while reading a book, but I could tell she didn't fully believe me. Then during dinner, she caught her husband staring at me a second too long. Her eyes narrowed, and for a moment, the room felt suffocating. She was starting to piece things together. That night, I heard soft footsteps in the hallway. When I peeked through the crack of my bedroom door, I saw my daughter. She was standing outside the guest room, listening. Inside, her husband and I had been whispering. I froze, terrified she might hear everything. The door handle moved slightly. She was testing if it was unlocked. My heart pounded so loudly I thought it would give me away. But then, after a few tense seconds, she walked away. I realized she no longer trusted either of us. The very next day, everything fell apart. I thought my daughter had gone out shopping, but she came back much earlier than expected. When the doors suddenly swung open, she caught us together. No excuses, no hiding. Her face froze in absolute shock, then twisted into pure rage and betrayal. She screamed so loudly the neighbors could hear, calling me the worst mother alive. Her husband just stood there, silent and pale, while I tried to reach for her, but she pulled away as if I were poison. In that moment, I knew I had destroyed not only her marriage, but our bond as mother and daughter forever. Her screams turned into a storm. She threw whatever she could grab, pillows, books, even a vase. "Get out, both of you!" she shouted, her voice breaking from anger and tears. Her husband tried to calm her, stammering excuses, but she wasn't listening. She pointed to the door with shaking hands, her whole body trembling with fury. I tried to explain, to beg, but every word I said only made her angrier. The betrayal in her eyes was unbearable, like I had killed something inside her. And then, with one final cry, she told me I was no longer her mother. I grabbed my bag with trembling hands, though I barely knew what I was putting inside. Her words echoed in my head. "You are no longer my mother." As I stepped outside, the cold night air hit me like a punishment. For the first time in my life, I realized I had nowhere to go. I sat in my car, staring at the steering wheel, feeling the crushing weight of what I had done. The house behind me, once filled with family, warmth, and laughter, was now closed to me forever. And I couldn't stop asking myself one thing. Why did I destroy everything for something so meaningless? I spent the night in a cheap motel, staring at the ceiling, unable to sleep. Every sound from the hallway reminded me of the silence I had left behind. The next morning, I tried to call my daughter. My hands shook as I dialed her number. She picked up, but the only thing I heard was her heavy breathing. "Please," I whispered, tears running down my face. "Let me explain. I made a mistake, but I'm still your mother." Her answer cut through me like a knife. "You are dead to me. Don't ever call again." And then the line went dead. After her words, silence filled my world. But I couldn't stop myself. I reached out to him, the man who had destroyed everything with me. I sent him a message. She hates me. What are we going to do now? He replied quickly, almost too quickly. There is no we. You knew what this was. Don't contact me again. My heart sank. In one moment, I lost not only my daughter, but also the man I had risked everything for. I sat there, phone in my hand, realizing I had burned my entire life to ashes. The next morning, I felt the weight of the world pressing on me. I went outside to get some air, but I could feel the stares. Neighbors whispered. 2 women across the street stopped their conversation as soon as they saw me. One of them shook her head with disgust. By the afternoon, my sister called. Her voice was cold, sharp. Everyone knows. Do you even realize what you've done? You betrayed your daughter, your family, yourself. I had no words. I just listened as she said she didn't want to see me anymore. The shame wasn't just in my home now, it was in every corner of my life.
That evening, the house felt unbearably silent. My daughter had left with her husband, and my husband refused to speak to me. I wandered from room to room, touching the furniture, the family photos on the walls. Everything that once symbolized warmth now felt cold and foreign. For the first time in years, I was completely alone. I sat on the edge of the bed and realized no matter what happened next, my family would never look at me the same way again. The sound of my own breathing was deafening. It hit me like a storm. I had destroyed everything with my own hands.
Later that night, my husband finally broke the silence. He stood in the doorway, his face pale, his eyes filled with something between disgust and pity. I can't look at you the same way anymore, he said, his voice low and trembling. You betrayed not just me, you betrayed our daughter, our family, everything we built. His words cut deeper than any scream could have. He didn't pack his bags, he didn't shout, he simply walked away to the guest room, closing the door with a quiet finality. And that silence, it was louder than any fight we ever had. The next day, my daughter came home unexpectedly early. I froze the moment I heard her keys in the door. She walked in with a smile, carrying groceries, but the second she saw my face, her expression changed. It was as if she could sense something was wrong even before a word was spoken. My husband came down the stairs, his face pale and tired, and for a moment, the 3 of us just stood there in silence. Then she asked, almost whispering, "Why do I feel like something happened here?" My throat went dry, my heart pounded in my chest, and in that moment, I knew the truth was about to spill, whether I liked it or not. I tried to speak, but my voice cracked. Before I could gather the courage, he blurted it out. She deserves to know. We crossed the line. Her eyes widened. She looked between us, disbelief flooding her face. "What do you mean, we?" she asked, her voice trembling. The room felt like it was collapsing in on itself. I wanted to reach for her, to explain, to beg for forgiveness, but the horror and betrayal in her eyes stopped me. "No," she whispered, stepping back. "Tell me you're not saying what I think you're saying." And in that instant, the secret I had carried, the shame I had tried to bury, was out in the open. Her face turned pale, then flushed red with fury. She let out a scream that pierced my chest. "You? With him? My husband?" Tears welled in her eyes, but they didn't soften her rage. "You're my mother. How could you? You raised me, you told me about loyalty, about family, and you did this?" She shoved me back, as if the very thought of touching me burned her skin. Her voice broke, a mix of grief and hatred. You didn't just betray me. You destroyed me." Her words cut deeper than any blade could. My daughter turned toward her husband, her eyes blazing. "And you? The man I trusted with my life, the man I married, the father of my child. You chose her? My own mother?" He tried to reach for her hand, trembling. "Please, it wasn't like that. I love you. It was a mistake. I didn't mean—" "Don't you dare," she screamed, jerking away. Her tears spilled freely now, her voice shaking with both heartbreak and disgust. "You both lied to me. You both stole from me. You've turned my whole life into a nightmare." She collapsed into a chair, sobbing uncontrollably, while we stood frozen in shame. Through her tears, my daughter finally lifted her head and looked straight at me. "I don't even know who you are anymore," she whispered, her voice hollow. "You're not my mother. You're a stranger. Worse than that, you've destroyed everything." Her husband tried to speak, but she cut him off with a furious wave of her hand. Don't say another word. You've ruined us. Our marriage is over." The room went silent, except for her quiet sobs. And in that silence, I felt the weight of my choices settle on me like a mountain. I had lost my daughter. I had lost my family. All because I crossed a line that should never be crossed. My daughter's face hardened through her tears. She stood up, her voice trembling but firm. "Get out, both of you, right now." Her husband froze, his mouth opening like he wanted to beg, but the look she gave him cut him down instantly. She turned to me, her eyes filled with a mix of pain and hatred I had never seen before. "You're not welcome in my home. You're not welcome in my life. Leave before I completely lose control." For the first time in my life, I felt truly like an intruder in my own daughter's world. And the truth was, I had made myself one.
I picked up my purse with shaking hands. Every step toward the door felt like I was walking through quicksand. I wanted to say something, anything, to my daughter. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean for this to happen. I still love you." But when I opened my mouth, no words came out. Her eyes were cold, her arms crossed tightly around her chest as if to protect herself from me. So I walked out in silence. And the moment the door closed behind me, I felt the crushing weight of what I had done. The silence of the street pressed down on me. I was no longer a mother. I was nothing.
When I finally got home, the house felt unbearably empty. The ticking of the clock was the only sound, each second reminding me of how time had run out for me as a mother. I sat down on the couch, staring at the family photos on the wall, pictures of birthdays, vacations, Christmas mornings, moments that now felt like lies. I pressed my face into my hands and sobbed. For the first time, the full weight of my betrayal settled on me. I hadn't just lost my daughter. I had destroyed the one bond that should never be broken. And I knew nothing would ever be the same again.
The days that followed felt endless. Each morning, I woke up hoping for a text, a call, anything from my daughter. But my phone stayed silent. I tried writing messages. "I'm sorry. Please, let's talk." Yet every time I typed them, I couldn't bring myself to press send. What words could ever fix what I had done? At night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, haunted by the image of her face, the shock, the heartbreak, the hatred. It replayed in my mind over and over, like a punishment I couldn't escape.
The house grew colder, quieter, emptier with each passing day. And I began to wonder if this silence was my new reality forever. One evening, desperation pushed me to reach out to my sister. She was close to my daughter, often more like a second mother to her than I ever had been. When she answered the phone, her voice was sharp. "I don't think you should be calling me right now," she said coldly. I swallowed my pride. "Please just tell me how she is. I don't need forgiveness. I just need to know she's okay." There was a long silence on the line. Then finally, my sister sighed. "She's not okay. She cries herself to sleep every night. She feels betrayed by both the men in her life, her husband and her own mother. Do you understand what you've done to her?" Her words cut deeper than any knife. I wanted to scream, to cry, to beg, but instead, I whispered the truth. "Yes. And I hate myself for it every single day."
My sister's tone softened, but only slightly. "You need to understand," she said. "Right now, she doesn't want to hear your name. She's angry, she's hurt, and she feels like you destroyed her life." Tears rolled down my face as I clutched the phone. I just want a chance to explain, to tell her I never meant to hurt her this way." My sister let out another sigh. "Intentions don't matter here. She trusted you more than anyone, and you broke that trust in the worst way possible. You didn't just betray her, you chose her husband over her. Do you realize how twisted that looks?" Her words were brutal, but true. I had no defense. I could only whisper, "Do you think she'll ever forgive me?" There was a pause, heavy and painful. "Maybe one day," my sister finally said. "But not now. Not anytime soon." And with that, the line went dead, leaving me alone in silence with the weight of what I had done.
The next evening, as I sat in my kitchen, drowning in guilt, there was a sudden knock on the door. When I opened it, my daughter's husband stood there. His face was tense, his eyes restless, and for a moment, neither of us spoke. Finally, he muttered, "We need to talk." I stepped aside, letting him in, my heart racing. He paced around the room before turning sharply toward me. "She knows, and she hates me. She won't even look at me, that I can't stop thinking about you." The words cut me in half. Part of me wanted to scream at him for coming here, while another part burned with the same forbidden desire that had started all of this. "Stop," I whispered, shaking my head. "This is already a nightmare. You've destroyed her trust, and I've destroyed mine as a mother. We can't make this worse." He stepped closer, his voice desperate. "But don't you feel it too? That connection between us?" I closed my eyes, trembling. Yes, I felt it, and that terrified me even more than his words. And with that, the line went dead, leaving me alone in silence with the weight of what I had done. I pulled away from him, clutching the edge of the kitchen counter as if it could hold me upright. "You need to leave," I said, my voice breaking. But he didn't move. His eyes locked onto mine, full of a mixture of guilt, desire, and despair. "I can't just walk away like none of this happened," he said softly. "I can erase you from my mind." Tears welled in my eyes. "You think I don't feel torn apart? I betrayed my daughter, my own daughter, for something that should have never happened. I can barely look at myself in the mirror." He stepped closer again, lowering his voice. "But you don't regret me, do you?" The silence in the room was unbearable. I wanted to scream, to deny it, to end this madness for once and for all. But the truth sat heavy on my chest. I didn't regret him. I regretted everything else, but not the way he made me feel alive. I whispered, almost to myself, "That's the problem. That's what makes this unforgivable."
The next evening, everything came crashing down. My daughter came home earlier than expected. I was in the kitchen, still trying to piece my sanity back together, when I heard her voice, sharp, trembling with rage. "How could you?" I turned and froze. She was standing in the doorway, tears streaming down her face. Her husband was behind her, pale and silent. "Mom, my own mother? With him?" she cried, her voice cracking. The room spun. My heart pounded so hard I thought I'd faint. Words wouldn't come. Excuses, explanations, none of it mattered. The truth was written across all of our faces. She shoved her wedding ring onto the counter, the sound of it clattering like a gunshot. "Both of you disgust me. You ruined everything." And then she was gone. The silence that followed was suffocating. I collapsed into a chair, shaking, realizing the full weight of what I'd done. In chasing something forbidden, I had destroyed my daughter's trust forever, and no amount of apologies would ever fix it.